What is an adult life equivalent of calling your teacher mom? This happened to a co-worker years and years ago. We were tellers at a local bank. Every Christmas we had tiny candy canes to give to the kids of customers. One guy came through with his transactions. He had cash back. Teller 1 was helping him. She proceeds to give him his cash and a 100 bill and a candy cane for his kid. He looks at her and says, "Can I have that broken up?" She then proceeds to bash the candy cane to a pulp with my stapler and gives it back to him. Teller 2 just looked at her after the dude said thanks and drove off and said, "I think he meant the 100 bill. I will remember this story forever." My favorite part is that the customer didn't correct her, just drove off with his $100 bill and tiny bag of candy dust. I've worked in restaurants since I was 16. When I bring someone to a table I say enjoy. After any drink or plate of food I put down at a table I do the same. Well, I guess it was just inevitable that when a man asked me where the washroom was and I directed him that, I told him to enjoy. Hope you have a nice crap. I work in a prison where I have occasionally have a inmate say alright officer Imokid, have a good night, drive home safe, hit him with the thanks you too. Multiple life sentences. My first silver, thanks ya. I once saw a flustered young lawyer address a judge as "Oh Lord." He was a big church person and had kind of fallen into a prayer cadence as he nervously argued. Everyone pretended it had not happened. I once went to court to dispute a traffic ticket. When prepping my case, I went over my statement with my wife. Luckily I did, because I had "Your Majesty" written down instead of "Your Honor" at the very beginning. When talking with family we always end our calls with "I love you." So I'm on a call with my longtime assistant, and as the call ends without thinking I say "hello" and stop horrified as I couldn't think of how to finish it. Thank God she had a sense of humor. She said, "AWW, come on now, you can say it. Go ahead, tell me you love me." So I did and we laughed about for years. I hands down think signing off a biz call "I love you" is the most adult equivalent to calling some random mom, and I've done it a lot. Well, I've accidentally rubbed the back of some random chick at Walmart thinking she was my wife before. Calling your wife mom is pretty bad. I did that once almost 20 years ago and the cringe hasn't lessened over time. My husband calls me mumsy at least once a year. Edit, we don't have any kids. I had a co-worker who would jokingly call our chief Big Daddy behind his back. We were all working a little late one night and she let "Hey Big Daddy" slip as he walked in. To her credit she owned it and now calls him that in regular conversation. Still weird though. I once called an older female co-worker mom because she kinda looks and gives off a vibe like my mom. I am a 50-year-old woman and when the IT guy fixes my computer I have to not pat him on the head. I'm one of those never save numbers in my phone kinda guys. When I was in the army, I was stationed somewhere with a different area code than mine and got to talking to a local girl. Things were getting heated one night over text, so we were sending raunchy things back and forth. I wasn't paying attention for a moment and sent a message to the wrong person by mistake. My sergeant replied, "Alright, I'm not really into all that, but make sure you show up to formation in the morning." Well, now you gotta tell us what you texted the man. At Dollar Tree the other day my boyfriend walked up to the cashier and she said almost immediately, "How was your meal?" and then, "Oh, wrong job." Not me, but my mom. She was in a meeting and not paying attention for whatever reason. Then someone asked her a question and she responded with, "What's that, honey?" Made me crack up for so long. My old boss and my husband's names were one letter apart. I worked in a daycare, so the owner and all the staff often texted one another to update each other on kids, any issues parents had, and general questions. My husband was working third, and I was working first. We didn't get to see each other much, and most of our conversation was done via text. On my very first week, I was in a rush after getting into work, and texted my husband the same thing I always texted him when I got into work. "Hey babe, I'm here. I hope your night was as awesome as you are less than 3. I love you so much. Your dinner is in the crock pot." When I went on break, I checked my phone. Nothing back from my husband, but my boss had texted me. It read, "Love you too." Mwah. I was so confused until I looked back at the messages and realized I had sent her the text meant for my husband. Changed her contact name to boss after that one. Thank God she had a good sense of humor about it. My friend was on a toilet. Someone knocked and she said, "Come in." I have accidentally said love you when hanging up on a work call. Mixing up text messages between your wife and boss. I'm a teacher. I unthinkingly scolded my dog the other day with, "Follow the directions." We kinda just stared at each other for a second while I realized how ridiculous I sounded. I did the opposite. I tend to snap my fingers at my dogs when they are being naughty. I work at a hospital, and once or twice I've snapped them at a patient who was pulling a line or getting out of bed without help. Felt like a huge douche. It's just so ingrained, haha. These days I rarely talk on the phone to anyone who isn't family, so love you. Bye is a standard phone call ending. We had some issues at our house last year and I'm pretty sure I told 2 contractors and the insurance adjuster I love them. It's okay, everyone needs some love. I'm a dental hygienist. My patient was a man who had just turned 91 the day before. Instead of saying happy late birthday like a normal freaking human being, I accidentally, and very loudly, said happy last birthday. The look on his face, y'all. This was also my second day at my new job. I referred to the pediatrician as the veterinarian for the first year or 2 of our kid's life. Even did it in the office and over the phone with staff. Yes, we had pets long before we had kids. Thankfully, they claimed to find it charming and reported I wasn't the first to make the mistake. My husband has mixed up my and his sister's name more than once. Also, calling your kids the pet's name. I'm an only child. My mom has called me her sister's name, her 2 best friends' names, my best friend's name, and the cat's name. Walking up to the wrong car and freaking out when you can't unlock it. My husband did this, with extra discomfort. He left the store, got in the car, looked over at the passenger seat, and it was not me. Whoever it was freaked out. Going on autopilot and coming terrifyingly close to giving my short female employees nudges like I do my daughters. Good job, sports nudges. Oh, sorry, Brenda. I was given a lift home by a colleague from work once, and when he stopped to let me out of the car I leaned in for a kiss as it was what I would do to my wife. Thankfully he was looking the other way at the time. Once I was in the airport and I went to get a sandwich. I stood at the counter to tell the worker to give me a turkey sandwich, which he prepared. He handed it to me and his co-worker noticed he didn't microwave it, so he extended his hand to me over those glass container thingies, which have food displayed in them, so he can take it to microwave it. I didn't understand why he was extending his hand, so I smiled and shook it. He laughed and pointed at my food and told me he has to heat it. I felt dumb as heck. I'm sure he appreciated it. That probably made his day. I once went to the wrong floor of my apartment building and tried to open the wrong apartment. I stood there jiggling the doorknob for a few minutes before realizing what I'd done and freaking booking it up the stairs before the resident came out to see WTF was happening. On the way back from a client meeting with one of the partners, he wasn't paying attention when the light turned green and I said, "Hey, babe, you gotta go," and then I died. If you are a teacher, calling your students by their older brother or sister's name that you had before in your class. This always made me weirdly proud, but my sis was 5 years older and I looked up to her. I called my housekeeper Daddy instead of Darcy. It was an autocorrect mistake in a text, but I didn't notice for 24 hours when I realized she never texted me back. I was absolutely mortified, but she thought it was hilarious. When she texted me 2 weeks later, her opening line was, "Who's your daddy?" I actually lost my mind in a meeting reading that. She's the sweetest older lady and now my nickname for her is Daddy. Signing an email, best retards. Hitting send accidentally before you've finished typing. Dear Jeffrey, I am afraid. Ending a phone call with a client or colleague with "love you." Contract has been extended with the client. Answering your personal phone with your work phone greeting. When a customer is leaving the restaurant and he says to me, "Have a good night, love you," and I, God help me, say love you too. Take care. Then we spend a silent moment just looking at each other and both turn away at the same time, never to discuss it again. My boss is old enough to be my dad, although his kids are younger than me. Sometimes he reminds me of my dad and I have almost told him, "Oh okay Chip," my dad's name, in a sarcastic "I don't agree with you" tone. Once when we were having a "we don't agree about something" conversation that had to do with our other leader, he slipped and called me his daughter's name while giving me advice. He wasn't telling me I had to do what he was saying but was sharing why he thought I should. It really made me feel that he was genuinely giving me the best advice he could. I still didn't agree, but I did take his advice. I know this is exactly an answer to the question, but life has been a little hard lately and typing out a nice moment made me feel a bit better, so I am going to leave it. If Reddit therapy helps, keep it up. Hope things get better, friend. Easy. Calling your boss daddy. He might get the wrong idea about what you're willing to do in order to get promoted. Does putting veggies in the washing machine instead of the fridge count? Calling your girlfriend by your ex's name. This sounds much worse for some reason. Tossing the plate of pizza rolls onto the couch rather than your phone. I have a friend who used to work as a nursery school teacher and then went to a job in an office. The transition was not easy. Apparently she started her first presentation by saying, "Alright everyone, quiet down, fingers on lips." The reason she tells the story is that about half the people in the room, including her immediate boss, did it instinctively. As a teacher you get so used to undivided attention, or at least the expectation of it, for presentations. So much so that it's jarring to present to adults, especially other teachers, when they don't shut up. Shut you up, I'm talking now, my turn. Every day when I leave work I text my so and let him know whether I'm going straight home or whatever. The last person I had texted was my boss. I sent her the text, "Baby, free from work. I'm headed to the store to get groceries. I love you so much." Imagine my surprise when my boss, who I'm luckily close with, texts me back, "Lol good girl." I was so confused. Opened the text convo, realized what I had sent her, sank into a puddle in the middle of the grocery store in embarrassment. We all had a good laugh about it the next day. One of my soldiers called me dad in boot camp. It was pretty hard not to laugh. Ugh. This reminds me of being in boot and, as a lady, coming across a male drill instructor and saying, "Yes, mom," out of instinct. When I got my nachos at the cinema, the guy at the counter said, "Enjoy your film," and I said, "You too." Holy Jesus Christ on a motorbike, thank for the silver. Waiter, enjoy your meal. Me, you too. Rental guy, drive safe. Me, you too. Doctor, feel better. Me, you too. Cop, keep it under 55 next time. Me, you too. I was out working with my dad once, and his client called and asked for rates. I told him, and when he said okay, thank you, I said love you, and hung up. It was strange. We had to clean his carpet the next day, lol. He was about 6 feet to 300 pounds of pure black badassery. When we were leaving, he stopped me and asked if I talked to him the day prior, and I said yeah. He said real gently, "I love you too," and just lost it. I called my first boss mom. She was not even kind. She was an absolute tyrant and hated by everyone except me for some reason. On top of that, she started liking me after that. To be fair, it was an internship and I was 18 years old. Getting my children's names mixed up or calling them by the pets' names. Thank you to everyone who upvoted me and commented your stories. Sorry I haven't replied to you all, but I've upvoted all of you. Glad to see I'm not alone. Virtual high five. Accidentally threw my phone in the air and tried to catch it with my mouth, as one would do with a vine fruit or something. Showerhead sprayed water on the toilet bowl, so I wiped it off with a reusable towel. Proceeded to throw the towel in the toilet. Saw a cockroach on the ground when I was on the phone wearing only pants. Didn't step on it. No, that would have been sane. I freaking crushed it with my palm. Thought to myself, well frick, I got this far and picked it up and threw it in the bushes. Protocol at robotics is to yell safety before using a heavy tool. Out of sleep deprivation, I yelled good morning and turned on the massive saw. Immediately turned it off without cutting the piece and collapsed laughing. The list goes on. Like this video and this good boy will play you a nice song. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.